I'm Leila Gordon. I work for Ordnance Survey, so I'm part of a small team called Ultimate Reality, as I call it, because in Buddhism that means God, which is the name I really like. So we're part of OS Labs. So within OS Labs, we have different projects that we're working on. So one of my area of real interest is AR and VR, and so just been recently getting a team of people together to work on these concepts and how basically relates to Ordnance Survey. So my background is not geography. I'm a computer science sort of graduate, and I'm specialized in computer vision. So I was just watching the presentation by Mark Zuckerberg today, actually, on the Oculus and the new headsets that they're releasing. I really like the fact that he said the future is built by the people who believe it can be better. Because often people come up to us and ask us, so why VR? You know, and I often tell them, basically, if your vision is poor, if you go to an optician, you're happy to wear a pair of glasses that make your vision better. Why not have a vision that gives you all the digital data that's around you? I mean, that's a similar concept. So I think that we are here now to build the future, and I think we are in a really good place to do that, and I'm one of the firm believers. Again, I've been mentioning this terminology, geo-immersive reality, and a lot of people say you should coin this term, but what I mean by that is our reality, but with added geospatial information as they happen around us. So not just static stuff, but dynamic stuff as well. So if there's a flow through a pipe in a construction site or inside the building, why should I not be able to view that data? And that's kind of part of geo-immersive reality. So as long as it's got a georeference, I should be able to visualize it. So what's my team trying to understand really is that how the users, as in GIS users or consumers, will visualize and interact with geospatial data in either a semi-immersive manner, as in augmented reality, or a fully immersive virtual reality, and how the technology is going to impact our data. So Ordnance Survey is the UK's national mapping agency, as you probably all know. And we've been going through digital transformation at the moment, which means that we're trying to make our data more collaborative with other organizations and kind of provide the infrastructure for the data to be available to everyone, and we can collaborate with other companies. So as part of this, we want to know how users will be interacting with these technologies and in terms of when it comes to GIS data. So the background to this work goes back to all the way to 2006. You see the very old phone that I'm holding in that picture. So one of my ideas was that how can we make paper maps to benefit from augmented reality? And I did this work called Map Snapper, and that was actually New Scientist. The link is still there, I checked earlier, which shows that you can have a paper map. It's not a very good picture on this, but and then basically you put a computer vision sort of technique on top of the paper map, and it recognizes a map image, because map image is so full of features that can be recognized and they're unique. And then the augmentation is the places of interest that are actually come up on the phone screen, and then you can sort of click on them and get to the different points. So this is back in 2006, and then my colleague also did some work on overlaying master map data as sort of schematic data on top of the real world view, and he actually wrote a paper on that as well, and so it was published. So that was the first time anybody was looking at AR and in a consumer space using geospatial data. So we've got a bit of a history, and his system, the way he made it, was just using a tablet PC and a camera, and I mean, that's the picture of it I took today. It's just all sort of taped together and very Blue Peter-like. But that's sort of the history of where we started looking at this. Then fast forward to 2015, we were one of the sponsors of Digital Shoreditch, the event in London. And in that, one of the first things that we got asked as one of the sponsors was that people navigation around the building, because it's a Victorian town hall, it's a basement full of lots of corridors. And as a mapping agency, we got asked, is it better to provide a better mapping for that venue? Because every year people get lost, believe it, in a very small space. So we looked at, okay, can we strip out the reality into a very kind of a structural type of sort of data, and then just show way to the events that are going on, like different talks and different events that are in different rooms, and just do a navigation sort of like gaming kind of experience. And we actually did that, and it was quite successful, although you don't get any GPS reception in that building, so we used iBeacons at the time for, you know, a bunch of them, about 200 of them, I think, in that small space, just so that we can do a local sort of positioning in there. And then the other thing that we did a study with Southampton General Hospital around AR and navigation, again, because mapping agency, again. kind of makes sense. We noticed that looking at the stats of how people get lost in the hospitals, it was really worrying to see that 70% of the staff find it very difficult to move around a hospital. That's a worrying stats because staff are the key people to sort of saving lives. And I think the reason for that is because we looked at the psychology behind it, and when people are stressed, navigation really gets very undermined by the stress. So we thought, okay, hang on, could it be that we use augmented reality, a bit like they would have done in the old days, sort of painting the corridors and you kind of follow a color to get to the right clinic? Can that come from a temporal sort of set of data? So if you know what clinic is held where, and then that arrow becomes personalized to you. So as a patient or as a staff, you know where you need to go to, you put that in there, and then the app is actually able to help you along the way and then guide you throughout the corridor. And obviously you can have a little map design underneath it as well to guide you. And then other sort of work that's been going on, we're part of CityVerve, which is Manchester's Innovate UK funded IoT city demonstrator. And we're working alongside Cisco and lots of other sort of organizations. And one of the things that I was really interested in doing was, personally, because I love Hololens, was to see if we can put any of the 3D data in Hololens and visualize it, because we have some really good 3D data captured from the overlapping aerial imagery from Manchester, because that's part of the data supply that we do to the project. So just started playing with this, because with Hololens, the limit of the data is 100,000 faces, but just that town hall on its own was 1 million faces. So I just wanted to see how the device performs in terms of if you're in a city council and you want to visualize the city, can you be visualizing this data as part of that? And so we had a minister's visit back in HQ. Lord Pryor visited us. That's our CEO, Nigel. So I was sort of playing with the mixed reality headset HoloLens and just seeing how this data can be visualized. Amazingly, it was performing really well for the fact that we are sort of quite a magnitude above the limit of the number of faces you can have. But I was able to sort of place it on a desk and actually sort of rotate around it and see it from the different lighting and different shadows that we had on this building. And then you're able to sort of tap it and move it around. So ideally what you want, obviously, is a bit like HoloMaps, where you can sort of pan this data and it loads it on fly. So if you ever had access to storage, cloud storage for 3D models. But it was just my interest to see how we can bring that in and then bring in the other IoT data that kind of relates to that area. So this is another sort of project we've been working on. It's called OSHQ Desks. So this is Ordnance Survey's HQ building, and one of the people in my team, he's been building a VR sort of visualizer of the inside of the HQ. And basically, one of the nice things about this is the allocation of the dynamic data. So the desk positions are dynamically allocated within the model. So if the desk positions get moved by a central place, that data gets obviously changed, and then the model is able to sort of upload the new data, so the desk positions aren't static within the building. They are loaded from a repository which holds the formation of the desk, because within our buildings, we're constantly moving and we're constantly changing where everyone sits. So even we ourselves get lost in our building and to find the person. So we've got this model basically, and that's the kind of, so we're showing it to the people who do the building management, and basically we're trying to get their idea on, is it a good thing to design interiors of the building in that kind of a platform? Because moving desk is quite a lengthy process, and if you can visualize what that place would look like before you actually do the move, it saves a whole lot of hassle and money as well for the people. So is VR the right kind of platform for doing that sort of activities, is the kind of questions we've been asking. So we're going to demo this to the States at some point next week and engage their interest on that. And again, the other thing about knowing what each desk is, so if that desk information changes in real time, we'll have access to that. So within Unity, we're constantly accessing the most up-to-date kind of data. So nothing is static within that model. It's all the assets are all managed centrally. So the other one is again around This is OSHQ in 3D, so that was captured using UAV, and it's all OS's data. And again, we're trying to see if you visualize this model in a room in VR, does it give you a different perspective? Because we keep hearing that VR gives people a more comprehensive aspect of 3D. So is that something that's going to improve the visualization sort of side of things? And then lastly, we come on to the feature we've just released within OS Maps app. So if you've got OS Maps app, there's a new AR feature there, which is something I developed actually as a proof of concept. So now it's gone into full production. And within there, you can actually see labels to the environment. So if you're outdoors, you can actually see, you can customize what you want to see, and it would show you everything as a 360, so you're fully immersed in the data that Ordnance Survey has. And just in terms of what we're going to do in future, we're going to look at on-the-ground assets utility for AR and VR. So we're talking to a company called Select Surveys, which is a sister company to OrgView, and we're trialing OrgView to see if that's a suitable thing. And again, just doing dynamic and static assets management in smart buildings. So we are part of a few bids. I'm not allowed to talk about them, but few international bids, and we're kind of building proof of concept to support that. And then Hololens tabletop simulations. We're interested in bringing BGS data in, DEFRA data in, and just seeing how sort of a disaster management scenario or resilience scenario can be sort of replicated in HoloLens. I mean, is that going to help sort of decision makers to be able to get a better perspective on the different data sets? And that's it.
Thank you very much, Layla. I don't know, but from my perspective, the OS have always been one of the most cutting-edge and innovative institutions that we've got here in Bryn. I can go back 20 years and start my career and say, I've downloaded DXFs of OS Master Map to get the platform from which I would then create designs. I think it's great that you publish data, that it's under Crown license or free license to most. So I think, again, it's really great to see that you're moving things forward from external maps to internal maps. Right, oh, yeah. I'll shut up. And questions from the audience, please. Nick.
I saw, like, you have an asset tag. Mm-hmm. Are you going to embed, what it is? And the question is, how will you embed what it is?
What I'm hoping to is to obviously connect to a data set on an API in a cloud somewhere. That's actually got to give you the data, because that's the only way I can make sure that that data is kept up to date. So rather than storing it within the experience, I'm going to talk to various APIs and just bring in the data from different data sources, which could be either crowdsourced or user-generated.
So something like your address layer, I think you're working on something where you put a unique identifier on the assets, the public assets that are out there that people can then
plug the data into that.
Yes, very, very interesting stuff.